Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Chicago, Grand Rapids, Duluth, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, and Jacksonville, Florida. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. So we get these fact check labels when we post our videos to Facebook, and it's mostly when we were covering COVID or the vaccines or ivermectin or anything like that. They would have these, I think factcheck.org would put this, this has been misleading, and here's a big 5,000 page article we wrote about how Jimmy Dore is misleading, and of course I never was. Is Facebook in big trouble? It's been discovered that Facebook COVID vaccine fact checkers are funded by vaccine companies. Who'd have guessed it? Now, I knew this because I looked up who was actually funding factcheck.org when they would do these bogus fact checks of our stuff. And of course, they'd never interview me. They never give me a chance to. They would always twist what I was saying. Most of them were they didn't like my headline. It's like, the headline is misleading. They never said any fact I got wrong. They're just, and I'm like, well, who is funding factcheck.org? I found out that all their health fact checks, that factcheck.org, it's all funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Huh. Johnson & Johnson, a grant from them. So these fact check organizations, there's billionaire money somewhere. And these fact check organizations aren't there to check facts. They're there to push a political point of view and an agenda and to discredit people. And so watch this report.
And the Foundation's views aren't necessarily reflected in its decisions. But author and liberal studies expert Michael Rechtenwald believes...
So this is what I found out. There's the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. They fund the science checks for COVID-19 vaccination project made possible by a grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. The views expressed here did not necessarily reflect the views of the foundation. Not necessarily. So Johnson & Johnson, through the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, is funding Facebook's fact checkers, which is factcheck.org. Do you remember Snopes? The head of Snopes had to resign. Remember that fact checking, which is just a pro-Democrat? The guy who ran it had to step down because he was a serial plagiarist. Anybody who wants to get in a fact checking thing, that's always should be a red flag. So let's watch this.
And the Foundation's views aren't necessarily reflected in its decisions. But author and liberal studies expert Michael Rechtenwald believes such connections pose risks to the public.
This is absolute collusion on the part of vaccine manufacturers having funding the fact checkers on social media. So we're actually getting to the point where people's lives are being endangered. We've lost all confidence in the social media and our mainstream media entirely. Anything that comes into contradiction with the leftist agenda is deemed misinformation. People are now not able to get information about what's best for their health, including the detriments of the vaccine.
So, of course, we know that the vaccine is super safe and effective, and the FDA and the CDC still recommend it. So I don't know what that guy's talking about. But vaccines are wonderful, especially the COVID one. And sure, there are side effects, but they are rare. Rare. How do you define rare? Well, how do you define a vaccine? They changed it. The fact-checking organizations, according to that guy, is in collusion with Big Pharma. Hey, in today's economic environment, the stress of providing for a family and yourself can sometimes be overwhelming, and putting everyday expenses on credit cards only elevates that stress. You have to find a way out of that never-ending cycle. Well, I have an answer for you. You need to call my friends at American Financing. They are helping people just like you turn things around by using the equity in their homes to pay off that high-interest debt. They understand what you're going through. They talk to people in your position every day. American Financing is saving their borrowers an average of $854 a month. $800 a month. That's like a $10,000 raise at work. And they are closing some in as little as 10 days. And if you start today, you may not have to make next month's mortgage payment. So there's no better time than now to turn your situation around. Call today, 888-804-0303. That's 888-804-0303. Or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Jimmy. Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Chicago, Grand Rapids, Duluth, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, and Jacksonville, Florida. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.